We're going to talk for a moment about cancer in the fire service. And I brought Lieutenant Glass in, and he's going to kind of give us just a rundown on the last really 10 years here at Orlando Fire Department, the cases and some friends that we've lost along the way. And I was hoping you could kind of bring to light what we're up against these days.
Yeah, when I first got started in the fire service about 28 years ago. So obviously things have changed since then, the way we treat our fire scenes after our scenes. It used to be your bunker gear didn't get washed. It was always the dirtier the bunker gear are, that means the harder firefighter you were. That means the more experienced you were. Your helmet was melted. It was you kept it in service. You never washed it, and that's an aspect that started to change probably in the last 10 years. We started seeing younger firefighters that would come on. And early into their career, we're starting to come down with bladder cancer or thyroid cancer or some aggressive forms of cancer that we hadn't seen in the service before. So that caused pretty much the service as a whole to take a step back and start studying more on what's going on. Why are we experiencing this rate of cancer and these types of cancers? Within the Orlando Fire Department, some of the things we've done, we now have 2 sets of bunker gear, so we can swap those out after every fire scene. As a matter of fact, it's mandatory. If you're on a interior on a fire scene, once you get back to the station, you're out of service for an hour, your gear is taken from you, it's sent off to be deconned, and you go into your backup set of gear. So that's something that's changed within the last 10 years. On scene, we also do more of a decon process. We have a body wipe that you can use to wipe off the exterior soot on your skin.
Yeah.
That's probably come around in the last 5 years or so is when that started to get more prevalent within the service. So people are trying to look now to see what's causing these cancers. A lot of it is the products that are of combustion. It used to be everything was made out of wood. If you had a couch, it was made out of wood and leather. That was it. Nowadays, it's all plastics. So that's causing a big shift in what's going on within the fire service. The plastics, the off-gassing of the plastics, I think, is what's leading to these increases in cancer that we have right now.
Yeah.
Addition to that now is what's coming a concern over the last probably 3 years now is a chemical called PFAS. It's in all of our bunker gear. It's on the outer shell of it. It's designed to help waterproof the gear and prevent the oils from getting on the gear. What they're finding out now is that it is a carcinogen, a heavy carcinogen. So there's been issues with our gear that we currently use where it's up for contention. Is we know that's on the outside of the gear, but we also have been told that it's on the inside liner of the gear, which is what's on your skin.
Right,
so
yeah.
That's brought some concern up. Obviously, the reps in the industry say there's nothing wrong with it. There's a doctor out of Notre Dame, Dr. Graham Peasley. He's a neurophysicist, but he's the one who looked at it and said, no, that gear is very carcinogen.
Yeah, and with you guys basically in super high heat environments, your pores are open, the body's sweating and absorbing.
Right, absolutely. We're absorbing everything with that.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things. There are some companies that are coming up now that are making a gear that's PFAS-free gear. That same chemical was in all the firefighting foam that we used to use. So if you were on a car fire, it's quite often that you use foam on that. Well, back in the day, you didn't know. I mean, you talk to anybody that's been through standards in the last 20 years, they'll tell you about a day out in firefighting standards where you were just covered in foam, treated like it was a bubble bath.
Yeah.
Now we're finding out that those have cancer-causing materials.
Yeah.
So we've had to make some changes with that. A lot of it is just education, letting our guys know that, hey, this is still an inherently dangerous job outside of the fire scene, just the products of it. So we need to do whatever we can with our physicals to improve our education on that.
With that, what steps are you guys taking, or what new steps are in place to help kind of catch these things and hopefully catch them before they're treatable? Yeah,
unfortunately within the city there's been no changes in our physicals. So I've been here 25 years. It's the exact same physical I had 25 years ago. Despite going to City Hall and asking for changes, they're still resistant to them. So as a president of the union, we brought in a company called LifeScan that does a more detailed blood work. They also do a ultrasound of all your vital organs and your carotid arteries. So with that, over the last probably 4 years, we've caught three young firefighters that all had thyroid cancer that wouldn't have been detected outside of that ultrasound. So they saw the ultrasound tech noticed abnormality in their ultrasound, told them to go check with a primary care physician. They sent them off to a specialist, and they were all diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So these are 32-year-old firefighters that out of nowhere are being diagnosed with thyroid cancer. I guess another way that you can show that it's more prevalent within the fire service is last year, the state of Florida finally came down and listed 21 types of cancer as job-related injuries for firefighters, which we've never had that type of presumptive before. We've had presumptive bills for heart-lung issues and respiratory issues, but we've never had anything for cancer. So last year they finally came down and through heavy lobbying within the union to say, yes, these 21 types of cancers are defined as job-related cancers and you're covered under workers' comp for those injuries.
So with that said, what is the hope, like you as a union president, a fellow firefighter, what is the hope that we can do down the road? And my hope out there is to get more new age docs bringing to light what options there are for you guys.
Yeah, that's our best. Well, the direction we've been trying to head down is to come up with, okay, what tests should we be doing in our annual physicals that will help detect these type of cancers. There's been a lot of partnerships with the University of Miami. They have the Sylvester Cancer Institute down there, so they've heavily partnered with firefighters to try and, number one, come up with ways to detect it, and then also look to see if there's any type of markers that would be in your bloodstream that if they are in there, then that would be an indication that you're prone to having that type of cancer. So that's been a big thing for us is working with them and working with trying to find doctors that will recommend, hey, what you'll hear arguments, oh, the ultrasound's not definitive. The city always talks about false negatives or false positives as a reason why they don't want to do it. But we need to find some definitive tests that can say, okay, this is something that you need to watch out for. We noticed a difference from this year to last year in this type of blood test that you need to go get checked out.
Yeah.
So working with that and then working with the equipment to make sure that the equipment is designed so it's not having these type of chemicals built into them.
Yeah, because I remember when I was still firefighting, the thought was always, well, it's just the fires that we go to, and then I started hearing more and more about the diesel from the trucks as we spend time around it. Now I'm hearing about the bunker gear. I remember just as I was leaving, the things were getting put in place to, after a fire, to clean out the back of the truck where you're sitting. I remember so many times coming in and just, leftovers from a fire, and then the smell of the fire in the truck. It's like,
yeah, you could tell when you walked in the station that they had a fire last night. I mean, that's how it was too. You remember those days.
And really, like, to go on your point, because my other thought really is going to be trying to get the research on saunas to you guys, because the days of getting after a fire and getting in a hot shower afterwards and smelling it coming out of you, and then the next day, like, picking the black soot boogers out of your nose, and that's still having worn a mask, so, and what I really want to dig on too is, how long you been a fireman, Lou?
28 years.
Okay, 28 years. How has your mindset changed when you look at the job and wellness? From what things were you not thinking about when you were starting?
When I first started, like once the house fire was out and you were doing overhaul, nobody was wearing a mask. You were in there, and what we're realizing now is how much chemicals are still in that building hours after the fire's been out. But at that time, it was, you wanted to get out of that air pack as quickly as possible. It was dragging on your shoulders, so you're like, get the air pack out and just go in there and start pulling sealing.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing that how much of that the smoke has had an issue with you and compromised your respiratory system.
Yeah.
And then probably prone to the cancers because of that. So that's been the biggest changes is that we're still doing overhaul now in air packs on air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any advice for the next generation out there, or the current generation in regards to wellness and the job?
The wellness, I mean, a lot of it's going to be what you put into it. I mean, when I got hired here, there was a lot of older guys, there were a lot of heavier guys, and I think you're seeing now this fire service now I think is definitely in better shape than the crews that we got hired with 25, 30 years ago. I think they're more in tone with their diets, with regular type of exercise, and I think that's going to help with their careers in the long run.
Right on. Awesome, Lou.
Cool.
Appreciate the time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.